Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the KZN webinar today, where we'll be discussing striving for the future of inclusive and equitable women's participation in STEM. Before we start, a few webinar considerations. Attendees are reminded to ensure the volume is turned up on their device. Ensure you have a stable internet connection. This will ensure the streaming and audio will run smoothly. Attendees can ask questions via the questions panel located within the GoToWebinar control panel. By default, the control panel is located on the right-hand side of your screen. The chat function is reserved for webinar organizers and panelists to communicate with attendees. Attendees will not be able to chat with each other, however, are encouraged to ask questions. A recording of this webinar will be made available on the SAIEE YouTube channel, SAIEE TV, in the KZN Center playlist. This page is updated regularly, so ensure check back as often as possible for new uploads and subscribe. The link to subscribe to our YouTube channel is in the chat box at the moment. A certificate of attendance will be issued a few days after this webinar. I'd like to now introduce you to the chairman of the KZN Center, Mr. Shepherd Nkosi. He holds a Bachelor of Technology degree in Electrical Engineering, a post degree with USQ Australia, post-degree in project management with the University of Stellenbosch, and is currently completing his master's degree MSc with UKZN. As I mentioned, he is the chairperson of the SAIEE KZN Center and served as vice president of the Durban University of Technology Advisory Board and is professionally registered with EXA. I hand you over now to Shepherd.
Thank you, Mink, and thank you so much for the introduction of the webinar. As we've all noted during the introduction, this is a special dedication to the women around our country and the women that are in the engineering space across the world. It is really an honor to have women this month to be driving this discussion for us. And I just want to let you know that, as you can see, even our presentation this month has got a pink color to appreciate and thank the women that we have in the engineering field for the dedication and the hard work that they always do on behalf of us and on behalf of the country. Their dedication, some of these women are mothers, the aunties. They look after their families. They also look after us as men. So we really appreciate your hard work as engineers in this space. We will be also joined by a few women in our webinar this afternoon. Mokwape will be actually chairing all the discussions, but she's joined by our guest speaker, as well as two engineers that are also committee members in the KZN region. And she will be doing the introduction of all members, including our guest speaker. But let me hand over to Mokwape. Before I do that, Mokwape Lehanyane has over 15 years in the power industry and is currently the senior manager of the eThekwini Electricity, the high voltage project branch, and he is responsible for the high voltage equipment and capital project. But before joining eThekwini Electricity, Mokwape was with Eskom Transmission working as an assistant engineer. She holds a BSc and MSc degrees in engineering from UKZN, and she has got a certificate in technology leadership from DVI Institution of Technology, and a certificate in advanced project management, and also a Master of Business Administration MBA degree from UCT. She's a registered professional engineer with EXA and a senior member of SAIEE. She's also a panel member, committee member of the KZN SAIEE. She's also a member of SIGRI, a member of the Golden Key International Honor Society. I hand over to Mokwape's hands, and she will introduce the guest speaker and her team that will be hosting the webinar with her. Over to you, Mokwape. Thank you.
Thank you, Shepherd. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As already introduced by the Center Chair, my name is Mokwape Lekhanyani, and I'll be chairing this afternoon's webinar. Today's webinar marks Women's Month, and our theme is striving for a future of inclusive and equitable women's participation in STEM. And this afternoon, I'm assisted by two fellow committee members whom I'd like to introduce to you at this point. The first one is Ms. Crystal Anamalai. Crystal holds a BSc Electronic Engineering degree with the University of Kwa-Zulu, Natal, and graduated with a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Pretoria's Gordon Institute of Business Science. She is registered as a professional engineer with the Engineering Council of South Africa. She serves as a committee member of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers since 2019 and is a member of SIGRE. eThekwini Electricity has employed her as an MVLV operations engineer for the past 10 years. And her roles involve distribution automation and network management. That's Crystal Anamalai, and she will be doing the question and answer slot. Then the second one is Thandi Sishi, who will do the concluding remarks. Thandi is a chief engineer at eThekwini Municipality. In this role, she leads a section responsible for planning and distribution of electricity within eThekwini Southwestern area. Her responsibilities range from human resource management of the section, investigation and approval of electrical designs, including catalytic projects of establishing medium voltage substations. Thandi holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical and Electronics and Masters in Business Administration. She is registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa as a professional engineer since 2014 and is currently a candidate for examination for Electrical Engineer Certificate of Competency Factories. Thandi is an active member of the SAIEE and currently is serving in the KZN SAIEE committee since 2019 under the membership portfolio. As the women currently serving on the SAIEE Center, KZN Center Committee, we are excited to be leading today's webinar, and we say a lot has been done to get us to where we are today, and a lot still needs to be done for future generations. In terms of the program, there are two main items on our program today. The first one is a short video, a UNESCO research video, just to set the scene and to clarify really why we still have discussions such as today's discussion. Then the second item will be an address by our guest speaker, Ms. Kanina Dlatla-Mabeno. Her address will be followed by the question and answer slot, and then closure. Ladies and gentlemen, the digital revolution is upon us. The future is certainly digital. Now we are saying as women, we want to be included in that future. We want to be counted in that future. And not just to be included, but we want to play an equal role, if not larger role, to our male counterparts. For the future to be bright, we need to be inclusive. As they say, if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go far, take others with. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not just me talking. There is reputable research that talks to the future and the importance of including women in that future. And at this point, I would like to share a short video with you. That video talks about some of the research findings about this subject of the future being digital and the importance of including women. Please, let's watch this video for now. Thank you.
The digital revolution is gaining momentum. Are we on track to make it inclusive? Women now account for 1 in 3 scientific researchers. They have achieved parity in life sciences in many countries, but women remain a minority in engineering, computing, physics, and mathematics. These are the very fields that are driving the digital revolution and many of the jobs of tomorrow. These are also the fields where there's a skills shortage. It's not enough to attract talent. Employers must also be able to retain talent. Multinational corporations in the digital economy are dominated by men. Women are underrepresented in company leadership and technical roles. If women feel undervalued, they may choose to resign. But corporate attitudes are changing. Studies have shown that having a diverse workforce can boost investor confidence and improve profit margins. Yet nearly half of tech startups in Canada, China, the United Kingdom, and the USA have no women in executive positions. Women struggle to access finance. Just 2% of venture capital is being channeled towards startups founded by women. At university, women have attained parity at the graduate level and account for 44% of PhDs. But the gender gap widens as they progress in their academic career. Women make up just 12% of members of national science academies. Women earn lower salaries. They receive less grant funding for research than men and publish less in high-impact journals. A study of nearly 3 million papers published over half a century found that women would not achieve parity for output in computer science until the year 2100. We need to transform gender relations by eliminating gender stereotypes in education and in the workplace. We need to ensure that men and women enjoy equal opportunity and equal pay. For the digital revolution to be smart, it must be inclusive.
It doesn't get any clearer than that. The video captured the importance of today's discussion. Indeed, to be smart, the digital revolution will need to be inclusive. For those who would like to engage with the content of that video further, that video is based on a chapter in the UNESCO Science Report, which was released this year in April, for those who would want to go through the content further. Ladies and gentlemen, I just need to remind you that discussions like this should not be limited to once a year, where we meet in August and then we have these talks and seminars and then continue with the status quo after that. These discussions, after them, we need to go back to our areas and make an impact. Small steps will lead to bigger achievements. Okay, to unpack this further and put it in our context, I would like to now introduce our guest speaker to you. Our guest speaker is Ms. Kanina Dladla Mapena. Kanina is currently the Managing Director and Country Sales Director at Rockwell Automation for Sub-Saharan Africa. Kanina is a business leader in electrical engineering and industrial automation, with extensive expertise in mining, minerals, metals, power, energy, oil and gas. In June 2020, she took up her current role at Rockwell Automation Sub-Saharan Africa. Kanina's background lies in both business and engineering. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Johannesburg and an electrical and electronics engineering degree from the University of Witwatersrand. With the people-centric approach to business, Kanina leads with confidence in her team and the drive to meet customers' needs. She believes that technology enables great progress while people form the core of any successful solution. Based in Johannesburg, Gauteng, Kanina aims to build the Rockwell Automation brand throughout Sub-Saharan Africa. I now hand you over to Ms. Kanina Mapena.
Hello, everybody. I understand that we don't only have ladies, but we also have gentlemen. So I will say welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our session today. When I was contacted to come and be a keynote speaker. I probably worked on 3 or 4 presentations. Coming from a technical background, you'll understand, especially being asked by SAIEE, the first thing that comes to mind is, let me talk about the detail space, let me talk about IT, OT, let me talk about automation. I think only on my 3rd presentation, I said to myself, hang on, Kanina, we are talking about women. As a woman, 45 years of age, I'm one of those that doesn't actually hide age. Having worked for technology companies all my life, since I was 20 years, from day one when I arrived at company, it's always been, what can we do for women? What can we do for women of color? And what can we do for women in general? Being in an industry for 26 years, it's amazing and very heartbreaking to realize that 26 years later, we are still talking about the same subject, about women. So when that came to mind, I said to myself, maybe, Kanina, what you need to do is don't think about going into talking about technical, but maybe talk about the women that you've worked with, the women that have touched your lives, the women that have touched other women in the industry, but also other gentlemen in the industry. Because the nice thing about us being women, we are mothers, whether you've got a child or not, by nature, we're very nurturing. So when you go into the industry, you work with a team. It doesn't matter whether it's male or females. That's who we are. So I found it very difficult to select which ones I will be concentrating on and talking about, because I wanted to talk about people that I've worked with, people that it's not about hearsay, but people that I've engaged with, people that I can give examples of what did they do in the past 10 years. So I selected a few women, but I also selected a gentleman in there, because for us as women to succeed, we have a lot of other people that have been in the industry, people that have been fathers in our careers. So I sat down and I said, which one do I select? But there was just one gentleman that came to mind, which I will also talk about him later on, because we need to recognize them, because without them, as women leaders, women in technical fields, we're not going to be successful, because we need them. So at the end of the day, I chose to go with this presentation, where I'll be selecting a few women and celebrating them. The content, current contributions, it is not going to be death by PowerPoint, because I'm going to talk about people that you know, people that you are aware of, people that have touched your lives, or you know somebody else who's been touched by those people. And for me, the same thing goes, because they are present and historic heroines. So I didn't want to go a lot into historic, because we're living in the present. So I felt, let's celebrate what is happening in the present, but also just go a little bit back to talk about heroines and the inequalities, because we can't have this discussion without talking about inequalities. The future. One thing that has actually come to my mind was ethical leadership. Not only in South Africa, because when you're listening to the news and you're watching TV, you will think only in South Africa we're struggling about ethical leadership. But in 26 years in being in this field, with almost 13 years experience in management, I've realized that everybody's struggling with ethics. We are driven, we want to achieve, we want to prove ourselves, but sometimes we do that at a price of giving up our ethics. So here I will want to concentrate on, it doesn't matter how good the job or the deal, or whatever it is that you're after, it doesn't matter how positive it is, always think about it and think about, what does it mean? At what price? What is the cost to you? Put ethics first. I looked at a few research earlier on the video. They were also talking about it. And for me, I'm always driven by UN Women, because most of the time it's not just blah, blah. It's not just lip service and talk. They deliver what they say. So I am very much driven by what they normally say. I have recently started following American Association of University Women. And both of them, they tell you about women making almost half of the people achieving bachelors and masters. So 45% of women achieve bachelor's. And if you look at what the line 2 is saying from AAUW, they're talking about 80% of healthcare workers being women. We know what we're going through, what we've been going through in the past 18 months in terms of the pandemic. The people that are in there in the front line, whether it's nurses, whether it's scientists, whether it's doctors, it's 80% women. But are they getting the recognition? No. I would like to come back into the boardrooms where you sit and you strategize with your colleagues. And there you still find out that we're still talking about retaining talent. Recruiting women is not difficult, it's very easy. Every month we recruit women in different companies, and I've seen that whether I was at ABB or whether I was at Schneider or at GE or at Rockwell where I am right now. That is not difficult to recruit women, but the difficulty is retaining them. Because the difference between women that are just coming up in the field or that came up in the past 10 years, they know what they want. They're not desperate. They're not staying there to beg. It's either you deliver what you promised or they move. There's a part of me that feels I could have thought that way 26 years ago, but we are here where we are, and I really respect them for that. Every company that you are with is talking about being inclusive. Lately, we're not talking about D&I, which is diversity and inclusion. Everybody's talking about DE&I, so diversity, equity, and inclusion. We work on strategies. I've been with Rockwell now for 14 months. And I can assure you, one of the first things that I saw and had when I arrived on the 1st of June last year was the D&I strategy for Africa. It has remained the same. Has it yielded positive results? No, not yet. Because firstly, we all think that we know what these women want. I might be a woman, but alone, I cannot decide for everybody else. We still have a lot of gentlemen. Unfortunately, I have to put it the way it is. I'm going to put a spade a spade, call a spade a spade, because you still sit with your colleagues and they raise questions like, if I give this woman an opportunity, she's young, how many maternity leave is she going to go into? One, if she has to go into the field and work until in the evening, who's going to be taking care of her kids and also who's going to be taking care of the husband? So you're continuously coaching and mentoring your male colleagues to say, she might be a woman and you might be a man, but stop thinking of her as your wife. She's not. The fact that she's here and she wants to deliver the job, she's got a plan. She knows exactly what she's doing. Whether she's away from her family for 24 hours, 48 hours, for a week, it isn't your problem. Your problem is to make sure that we support. It's amazing that in 2021, we still find people that are asking questions like that. It's very real. I didn't select SAIEE because of SAIEE. There was a reason why I thought of let me celebrate SAIEE as a current contributor, a heroine, present heroine. A couple of years ago, if my memory still serves me well, I've made notes, but this is very passionate coming from the heart. I think it was in 2015, we were talking about launching women in electricity, AMU women. And when we had that discussion, it was just myself and two gentlemen, Hope Mashele and Sandile Mapumulo. It started as a joke, but it happened and they saw it through. Unfortunately, when we launched Women in AMU in Durban, I flew in because I was one of the sponsors. They wanted me to be one of the keynote speakers, and I was not ready for that because I was going through my cancer treatment. And to everybody else, I said to them, no, I'm done with it. But little did they realize that I was still going through it. And 2 days before I went to Durban, I was still going through my treatment. But because I believed in it, and the fact that it took a gentleman to come up with the idea, to convince me as someone who was in leadership to say, you have the budget, make it available so that we can do this. Not only me, a couple of other women were there and a couple of other gentlemen. So when we were sitting, and we're sitting there with SAIEE as Refugee was opening for AMU in women, I say to SAIEE, you know, SAIEE, I'm here because I wanted to celebrate and I wanted to come here to represent. At that time, I was still employed by Schneider Electric. And I said, I wanted to represent my company Because when I went to them and I said, I need money to be able to sponsor this event, they didn't say no. I didn't even have to write business cases. They made sure that there were funds which were available so that we can be able to launch this. And she was like, oh, fantastic, Kenina, but what are you talking about on your presentation? I was like, I'm not actually planning to present because I didn't have time to work on the presentation. Most women, as most of the time we say, we look down on each other and we've got negative things to say about each other. SAIEE said to me, Kenina, you've got your laptop here. I'm sure you can put something together. I was like, really, SAIEE? She was like, yeah. Within 30 minutes, I've managed to put quite a nice presentation, not the best, but nice. And I showed it to her and I said, what do you think, SAIEE? She was like, I like it. Imagine if you worked on this before, it could have been better. So we delivered the presentation and we had lunch, and I actually shared my story with SAIEE to say, my mind was not about presentations because of what I was going through. What I respected most about SAIEE, there was no change in the way she treated me before she found out what I was going through, and after. She treated me like a fellow colleague, a fellow sister, with respect, still supported me, and still said to me, Kenina, the fact that you are here, let's celebrate with other women more. If you look at women in municipalities at AMU, they will tell you a lot of stories about what SAIEE has done for them as an engineer, SAIEE as a consultant, SAIEE as a woman supporting them, because we all know how difficult it is, because we're coming across as we are very strong, we don't need support. But now and again, you need that person to say, it's okay. And SAIEE has been that person for me and a lot of other people. I am not going to read in terms of who SAIEE is, because I'm sure a lot of you know who she is. But as I was working on this, I thought, also just include the LinkedIn profile for the people that will be getting the presentation later on. For those that don't know who SAIEE is, and they can be able to go in and understand more and read and connect with her. Because one of the things that SAIEE does very well is networking. But SAIEE's networking is not about networking to know that I'm SAIEE. It's networking about what can we do together in terms of how can we make a difference in somebody's life. And what I like, it is never about let's make a difference in a woman's life. It's all about let's make a difference in engineers' life, whether women or males. SAIEE talks about it that way. So I would like to celebrate SAIEE. Moving along, it's Betha. And I think also with Betha, I still stayed with 2015 when we launched the Women in Electricity for AMU, because she was the MC for the day, and we actually met there for the first time. I didn't know anything and know who Betha was until that day. Little did I realize that in years to come, Betha will be playing a very important role in my life. With where I am now with Rockwell, I think earlier on when Mukwape was reading my bio, she was reading about me being in charge of Rockwell in Africa. I think on the bio is still talking about Sub-Saharan Africa, but it's actually not Sub-Saharan Africa. It's the whole of Africa, excluding Libya and Egypt. With Betha launching RVIP, it's giving us an opportunity as business people that are trying to make a difference in business, people that are trying to connect with different engineers, different business people in the continent. So for me, what Betha has done is she's opened the door for a lot of other people out South Africa and also in South Africa for us to be able to do business in Nigeria, to do business in Cameroon, to do business in Ghana. And for me, I was like, I need to celebrate her for that. So thank you, Betha, for being that person in my life and in other women's life. The next person, I don't have a lot of memories with her, but I'm hoping that we will create more. But I've heard a lot about her in terms of the partnerships that I'm forming at Rockwell with the different EPCs, that she is one person that I need to watch. Because one of the things that I was questioning when I arrived at Rockwell was, how come we don't have a lot of partners? So the business model for Rockwell is we do a lot of business directly, but when I'm talking about a lot of business directly, I'm talking about 20%. 80% is done with partners, whether system integrators or channel partners as in distributors. But when you look at that, it's 100% males. So it's one thing that I've been questioning ever since I've arrived. So I've been reading a lot and asking a lot of people about what is happening. And I know lately we're talking a lot in South Africa about renewable energy. And I'm like, okay, who are the women? Not the normal names that we are used to. Who are the people that are out there that are working, that are making a difference in their lives, in our lives, in the country, and also in the continent? Because one of the things that I'm trying to do is to take off the South African hat, but to wear the Africa hat. But while I'm wearing the Africa hat, I'm still wearing the technical hat to say, I'm fortunate enough to be in a position of power, and I want to create a legacy. In that legacy, I want to make sure that I open the doors for other women, hopefully, and other males. So Linda is one of those people that I'm like, okay, it looks like we can be able to go far together in the Rockwell world, in the Africa world. And I was like, she's young enough. I think she also deserves to be celebrated because she's making a huge difference. And those that want to know more about her, you can connect with her on the link that I have. Nosizo, she was one of my colleagues, GE. Extremely interesting. Firstly, she's younger than me. When you see a woman coming up and you're like, you speak Japanese, you speak Germany, but you're black, right? How did you get that right? So for me, she was a woman who was not a norm. She encompassed diversity, the name diversity. She's worked globally with different cultures and brought her uniqueness in those diverse organizations. What I love with Noz is when she arrived at GE, it was mostly about it's males, it's in Africa, what can we do different? But Noz didn't worry about that. She didn't worry about politics. She didn't worry about not understanding what was happening. It was all about, I might be a woman, I might be wearing the stilettos, but I'm going to work. But while working, I will be pulling other women with me. Not the women that I know from the industry, but the women that I'm finding, the younger women that I'm finding within GE. And that's exactly what she's done. Within 2 years, she's managed to bring up a lot of other young women, taking a young woman and making her director. You can relate to that because most of the time that happens after 5-6 years, but she's managed to do that within a year. Not everybody can do that while she's shining, by the way. So I wanted to celebrate Nosizo. This woman for me, she's a mother. She's one of the best business women that I know out there. But what I like about her is you hear a lot about Dr. Anna Mokgokong until you get to meet her. And when you do meet her, depending where you meet with her, you'll be surprised that she's not what you're expecting her to be. When I first met her, I was still looking for Dr. Anna Mokgokong while she was still there because she was nothing that I expected. She was in tracksuit, coming from soccer practice from her son's school. But she came in the boardroom and she said, I own 20% of the shareholding for Schneider Electric. I'm here to understand. I was lucky enough to serve on the board of Schneider with her. She made a lot of things easy. One of the questions that she always had, how she drove the board was, we're talking about D&I, diversity and inclusion. And in this case, it was all about women. How many women do we have? I don't only want to know about Kanina and knowing about 1 or 2, but I want to know how many women engineers do we have? How many women do we have in sales? She worried more about the rest of the other women. And as if that was not enough, she went into salary disparities to say, okay, can we open it up and see how are we paying women as not electric? Because firstly, most of the time, women are more qualified. Most of the time, more qualified than males. And yes, I agree that most males have got more experience than women. But is that really a good reason for women to be underpaid? So that's what she did in that boardroom during our board sessions, board meetings at Schneider. And at that time, I think I was still very much new in sitting in boards. And for me, it was more like a little bit scared because I needed to be comfortable before I can be myself. But before I knew it, I learned to fight for the other people, not only for myself, especially up and coming women. If you can go back and check what has happened at Schneider in the past 5-6 years, you'll see they had a lot of women in leadership. They had a lot of women in engineering. They had a lot of women also in marketing and also in supply chain across the board, because she believed in that. And she felt, as a chairperson of the board, it was her duty not only to come in at the end of the year and say, where's my dividends? So I will forever look up to this woman. So I am also celebrating her. Earlier on, I said we're celebrating women, but we also can't forget about the males, the gentlemen that made a difference in our lives. I changed this picture several times because I felt, I'm sure most people will want to see this gentleman's face. And I was like, and those ones that know him, those that have been touched by him will know that that's not who he is. He is a person who likes his bike. You are in a boardroom, you are in a meeting with a customer, you are with him, you're fighting about targets. He will always talk about his bike. He'll always leave you there and go get some air outside with his bike. Mr. Dudley Miller, who was a vice president for Schneider, he became a mentor not only to me, to a lot of women, women of color, white women, women across the board. He believed in diversity, but for him, diversity was about women only. Because he said being in this field for almost 40 years, he was like, I've seen enough males and I've done so much for the males. And as a legacy, what he wanted to leave behind was, how many women am I going to elevate into leadership? Leadership as in management, leadership as into engineering, even in different countries. So we have a lot of women that left South Africa and went to Australia, where he was very supportive behind them, making sure that they get to their dreams, going to France and different countries, and he supported them. So for me, I am where I am because I've worked hard. I'm where I am because of people like Dudley. It was not only him, there were a lot of other males, but it was difficult to be able to select someone who would be better than Dudley, because Dudley has done so much more, not only for me, but for a lot of other female engineers and female leaders. While I'm still there, I was like, I know that our story is no longer with us. Some of us that have worked very closely with Eskom, for me, I was never really employed by Eskom, but I've been doing business with Eskom from 2002. She taught me how to engage with the Eskom executives. She taught me how to do business with Eskom without being arrogant, without being interrogated by all those gentlemen and having the fear of, these are the people at Eskom. She taught me how to do business and how to be myself, not to lose myself while I'm trying to deliver what I needed for the targets at work. I know that a lot of you ladies will be able to relate to that, because I know she's done a lot during her days at Eskom and during her days when she was Sportnet, but most people will talk about her days when she was at Eskom. She's not here for me to be able to say to her, and unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to say thank you to her enough while she was still alive. So for me, she is a historic contributor, but somehow she's still very much present, because what she taught me still stays with me, that you are not better than anybody else as a leader and more. So thank you. So those are the women that I thought I'll be able to celebrate. Most of them, like you saw, they're still alive, and most of you will know. Then I thought, let me go into the day-to-day issues that everybody can relate into. Either you talk to UN Women, whether you talk to the ladies in the US. I think working for Rockwell, I get to engage with the ladies in the US. I engage with the ladies in Europe, in different universities, different companies, but I can tell you that one thing that is clear that always comes up is income disparity. Every person, every leader is talking about it. Most males, they find a way to sugarcoat it, but most women are talking about it, talking about how difficult it is for you to go fight for your female leaders to get a better salary. It was difficult 15 years ago, it was difficult 10 years ago, it was difficult 5 years ago, and I can still assure you it's difficult today. We cannot do it on our own. We need our male colleagues, our male counterparts to work with us, not to have fear but equality is important for us to move on. I think one of the things personally that I would like to see going forward is by the time we get to 2023, 2025, we shouldn't be talking about income disparities for women. It should be something that we forget about. We've been talking about it for more than 15 years. In every discussion, when we talk about D&I or DE&I, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is there. In every strategy that you sit in, whether I'm sitting with the executives in the US or in Europe or in South Africa, we are talking about the same thing. And one of the things that I'm really personally, as a person, that I'm fighting hard for is, before I leave Rockwell, I want to make sure that one of the legacies that I leave is making sure that the women are taken care of. And this story about gender gap. We've been talking about gender gap 26 years ago when I entered the working world. I was 20 years then. I'm 45 today, going for 46. We are still talking about it. When will enough be enough? When will this end? When are we going to arrive where we're saying, this is what we need? It's all written in paper. The strategies are out there. Everybody's agreed. Let's implement, because it looks like we are all struggling. When you listen to a lot of people talking about politicians, especially politicians in South Africa, to say, everything looks good on paper, but we can't implement. Guess what? It's the same in the boardrooms also. We are struggling to implement, whether in South Africa or whether in the US or in Nigeria or in Ghana, it's the same thing. We are struggling to implement. Strategies are there. We know how to close the gaps. We know how to deal with the income disparities, but we're just doing a lot of lip service and not doing anything. So my ask and my request to a lot of people in leadership, both male and females, is let's just say next year, this time when we are meeting again, listening to other keynote speakers, we'll be able to celebrate and say, yeah, it's done. That's my request to everybody that's here. Hopefully it is heard. One of the issues that is also causing the inequalities, and of course, the insecurities when it comes to economy, is lack of commitment from leadership. I said earlier on, you still sit with executives that still worries that if I give this woman an opportunity, who's going to take care of her kids, she's going to go on maternity leaves, blah, 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 like I said earlier on. I just hope we can move past that. In my company that I work in currently now, I was quite impressed to see that we've got KPIs for executives to say, if you don't meet the strategy that we're setting up or the objective that we're setting up for D&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that means you are losing almost 40% of your bonus for your KPI. So that will make sure that all executives and the teams below them and the middle management deliver this, because it's not only the executives that can close this gap. We need everyone who is in leadership to think differently, to be able to close the gap, so that we can all work together and forget about the inequalities. Greater business risk exposure. One of the things that I've seen is during the pandemic is a lot of people are working from home. And one of the risks that has been identified by a lot of people is most women are not doing their work, therefore seen as exposure because they are taking care of their families, which of course is not proven. But you don't see it written, but you hear it in a lot of meetings. People are talking about it, one. But secondly, the fact that we're still talking about the inequalities, it is, for me, it is a business risk on its own. Unfair recruitment practices, I'm not going to dive into it because I think I have spoken about it more and more. The barriers, of course, every company will have different barriers. One of the things that we are doing currently is to identify those barriers for different divisions, and also different leadership levels. And also looking at being an engineer doesn't mean that you also want to be a leader. You can still remain an engineer being in the technical field. There shouldn't be barriers that because you're in a technical field, you're not going to be able to be promoted to certain positions within the technical field, because people are still not doing that. Companies like ABBs they've been doing it very well. Hopefully that hasn't changed. We are learning, we're trying to do that very well as Rockwell. We're not there yet, but I've got a team of people locally and globally that's helping me. I know that Eskom has done that very well. And some few companies that I might not be able to mention have been looking at the barriers to entry, barriers to making sure that we can be able to recruit and retain the right skill set, the right talent within companies. So when I have done something, I'm not sure what I did. Means I might need your help.
Yes, ma'am. We see the future is technology.
But on my side, I am not seeing it.
Just press escape. No problem. Just press escape.
I'm pressing escape, but nothing
Okay,
is
I
really
see your
happening.
mouse. I see your mouse move.
Okay.
Okay. Press escape again.
Okay, I'm back there.
Excellent.
So I was trying to move the taskbar. It's okay. I know how to go back there. So the technical person in me still exists. It's good to see that. So as we were looking at the future of technology, I said to myself, everybody's talking about digital. I wanted to talk about something different. And as I was doing my research, I said, what can I share with the teams? What can I share with the ladies? And of course, some gentlemen. I apologize for forgetting the gentlemen. And I was like, okay, what is happening out there in the technology world, which is outside the box? And I was thinking, wow, SpaceX. SpaceX says, listen, yeah, I am going back to the moon. Do you want to work with me? And if so, let's do it together. Technology is really failing me here.
On your keyboard, you can press the right arrow to go to the next slide.
I didn't want to leave that slide first. I was still there.
I see.
Just going back to where I was. Come on. Apologies for that. I just want to go back to the slide about Elon Musk. Yes, so this is the slide I wanted. So SpaceX says they're launching a satellite that will display ads in space. And this is going to happen in 2022. Has anyone heard about it? No. Initially, when I saw that, I was like, it's a joke. But diving more and also talking to the people in the US, I've realized that 2022 is a couple of months away. And guess what? It is happening. He is going to do it. And I said, okay, he's young, he's male, he's doing very well. But what does it say about us as women? Is this not the time for us to invest in this space race that he's talking about? I mean, the fact that he's talking about ads in space, why can't he be talking about technology that we are inventing as women engineers, as women leaders? Why can't he be talking about the different companies that we are busy building, whether in Africa or outside Africa? Those ads, so the space will be available in the next 7 or 8 months, I believe, for you to buy. Of course, it's cryptocurrencies. So this is for me exciting because SpaceX was thinking outside the box, doing something different, something unheard of. well, it's either we are part of it or we'll be left behind. And my message that I wanted to leave with everybody is, this is happening. Please go and research more about it and see what can we do as South African engineers, especially SAIEE. Because for me, I think we can partner with our own brother. I mean, Elon is South African, regardless of where he stays today, he's one of our own. But for me, it's an opportunity for us to showcase what we can do different in technology, in the digital world, in space, and mostly for us as women. Young engineers are out there. Young female engineers are out there. This is a great opportunity where we can do something with Elon. I'm sure a lot of you will still be laughing, like I also laughed when I saw about it. But when you dig and you make your research and you understand into details what he's done, you realize that he is not playing. He will be ready to do it in 2022, in 7 to 8 months. So it's either we join him or we'll be left behind. So in also talking about the future, like I said earlier on, I wanted to concentrate on something different, not things that you hear of every day, not whenever you're trying to do the future research on the future of technology you come across. So I think it was in May, I had an opportunity to go visit Clarita. It's a company in Eastern Cape, which most of us have not heard about it. Most of the time, whenever you are, whether in small cities or in big cities, you'll see a lot of people that are picking up litter, trying to recycle. Guess what? In this company, that's what they do. They take the recycled plastic and they make something good out of it. When I was testing earlier on, because I have a link that is showing exactly how it is done, when I was testing, it worked. I hope when I go into it, it will still work. But you know how technology is sometimes. I might have to go out of the presentation mode to show it, but I'm just going to try and click so that and see if we can go into the video. I hope you guys can see that something is happening. It's not only on my side.
Yes.
I really wanted to show this video.
We don't hear any sound, Kanina.
You don't hear the sound?
No.
You know, when I tested this, it worked very well. Let me try. Can you still not hear anything?
No, no sound.
Ah, what a pity, because for me, this is the future of technology, and it shows what you can do with just litter, what we call litter, or what we call recycling plastic. And this is a plant that is actually in the Eastern Cape, where everything else happens. And I actually wanted to say, if you go further into their website, you can see more. You are actually even welcome to connect with Vuyo so that she can actually educate you even more in terms of how do they do it. This, for me, it is the future of technology, where we take what we normally call garbage and we turn it into something usable. It's just a pity that people couldn't hear, but there's a link and I'm sure people can be able to connect later on. So in a nutshell, when I thought about the future of technology, I thought about those two. For me, it was SpaceX and it was Clarita, because that's what it's called. It's not a South African company, it's an international company. In South Africa, they only have one plant, which is in the Eastern Cape. However, they do have plans of having more plants in the different cities, I know Joburg, Durban, and apparently Bloemfontein. You need to watch the video to understand more about what this company is doing. They're employing young engineers only, most of them females, technical people. You go in there and that's all that you see. Young females, black, white, everyone, every female. Of course, males are still there, but it actually shows you that it's a new company in South Africa. It's very young. It's apparently less than 3 years in South Africa. But what I like about it is the people that you see when you go there, it's people that are in their 20s. For me, that's the future. Young people that are taking technology into the future. So in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to share. So Vuyo Sukwembwe is their GM. So she's the GM for Clarita in Africa. And there is a link where you can connect with her, and hopefully you can be able to get more videos or even go and see for yourself, because you can actually see the future of technology and even the young people that are employed by the company. So when you even look at the males that are there, I don't think there's anyone who's 35 years of age yet. That is the future. That's what we are talking about when we're talking about the future is digital and the future is diverse. Ethics. I'm going to try and not focus only on my current position. Most people are talking about, when we talk about ethics, they think about utilities or government entities. But I can tell you, in private sector, we are struggling with this. And the difficulty in it, because you are in a private sector, you want to make your name, you want to arrive so that you are seen. You end up not seeing what is right in front of your eyes. You end up thinking, it's okay, as long as I'm comfortable, I can always come back and fix it. It doesn't matter that you can meet the target, you can be able to get the output that you want, you can achieve all your objectives, but if you forgot about ethics, no one will want to do business with. I wanted to share a little bit, but I need to be cognizant of the policies within Rockwell. When something doesn't make sense to you as a leader, double check. It shouldn't be about this is a favorite employee or this person is delivering a little bit of something that is not making sense or that's not sitting well with you. When that voice, that inner voice says to you, Kenina, something doesn't gel here. Don't be the scientist that we normally are, technical people, to say there's no technical factual facts that something doesn't sit well. Investigate. And everything that you do, when you wake up, think about ethics first. When you walk into the company, one of the things that I say to the team of people I work with is we are all CEOs. We are all responsible for ethics. When we see something going wrong, it is not Kenina's job or your manager's job. It is your job to call Kenina to order to say, ethically, this is how we do things in this company. Because it looks like as multinationals, as South Africans also, we are forgetting about this. You watch TV, you see how we are going wrong in South Africa. I can assure you, we are going wrong also as multinationals, as leaders. It seems to be very acceptable that you can bend ethics now and again, as long as no one is catching you. If you don't get caught, it's okay. In most of my talks, when I'm talking to Paula Rockwell, I'm talking to my teams, or I'm talking to the executives, I, most of the time, remind people about what we are forgetting, ethics. That when we are sitting there and we are laughing at what is happening at the Zondo Commission, stop for a moment and look around you and ask yourself if you're still ethically right, if you are still ethically correct, that are you leading ethically in everything that you are delivering at your work? Are you putting ethics first? Because most of the time, it's easy to read the newspapers and watch TV and say, how can they do that? My ask is, before we do that, just stop for a moment, look around you, ask yourself, ethically, are you correct in what you're doing? Before you look at what other people are doing at Zondo Commission, because most of us, you realize that we're doing worse than what we are seeing at Zondo. For me, it's painful, because one of the things that we learn as technical people is if you don't follow what is right in the technical field, you die. Guess what? look at ethics the same way. If you forget about ethics, your business dies, your legacy dies. You as a person, you've got no brand. There is no brand, there is no business, there is no great engineer without ethics. I can't go more because I couldn't really get a final approval from Robert to share more about what I wanted to share. It was not really about Robert, but about a lot that is happening in the private sector. But unfortunately, we've got colleagues that are also working for other companies. I'm sure they will not be happy with me sharing that. So lead with diligence. Workplace bullying. You will be surprised how rife this is. I said earlier on, I've been working for 26 years. In the 26 years of my work, everybody has been bullied, but you have not been bullied until you really know what bullying is. When I arrived at my current company last year, I got to understand what bullying is. Firstly, the people around, they get so comfortable with, this is a bully, but you can find a way around him or her. Don't worry about it. He's good technically or she's good technically. She or he is delivering results. But that person is still a bully. Does it make it right? You'll be surprised that because you are delivering results, you'll be missed if you're not there. People accept you for who you are and forget that workplace bullying is rife, it's real. I was, for the first time asked, did I get the job because I had to sleep with my boss, who, by the way, I have not seen because I was hired during COVID. And you're like, you're asking this because it's acceptable and because you deliver results, and everybody else is like so scared of you because without you, the company is not going to be able to do well. That's what happens when you allow people to carry on being bullied. It escalates. They grow every day. They improve. They become more of a bully, not a bully than yesterday, worse than where they were before. Young people are harassed. They've got nowhere to run because guess what? People that have been in the company for long, they've accepted it only because the person is delivering results. Remember, delivering results does not mean or doesn't give you the right to bully or not to respect other people. If you agree to it once, be prepared that it will carry on like that for the future. If you agree that someone must bully you or you look the other way, you're gonna do it forever. Be credible, be courageous, agile in everything that you're doing, and be ethical. In everything that you do, please do not delegate your ethical conduct, your ethics. As a leader, as an engineer, as a woman, and as a male. I think that's where I end. Any questions? Team SAIEE.
Thank you, Kanina. Thank you very much. We yes, there we go, Mokgwapi. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, apologies there, just technology challenges with my mute and unmute button. I'm hoping that you can now hear me. Thank you very much, Kanina, for that interesting presentation. For me, there are a few take-home points, apart from going through each of the points, but what is important is that you are challenging us to make a commitment. Also, another challenge is that when we meet again next year, this time, we should be saying we have done it. And that's a challenge to all of us, whether male or female. In our field of work, we need to be coming back to say we have done it next year and not be talking about the same thing each year. So that was really a powerful point for me. Another point was that we shouldn't be left behind because the SpaceX is taking off very soon. Then also it was refreshing to get exposed to other technologies outside our power engineering space. And the last one, but not last but not least, the ethics point, the fact that ethics do not depend on any sector, and if anything doesn't sit well, you need to, go deeper and investigate it. Thank you so much for that presentation. We will now take questions from the floor, and that will be facilitated by Crystal Anamalai. Thank you. Crystal, over to you.
Thank you, Mokwape, and thank you, Mokwape, and thank you, Kanina, for highlighting these current milestones that women have achieved, and I think it's definitely going to shape a very bright future and progress as women in STEM. Firstly, we have a question by Tandi Sishi to Kanina. What has been your role, your most prominent projects that you have undertaken, and what do you think is your highlight in your career, in your engineering career? Kanina, I think you may need to unmute. Not yet.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Kanina. No, we're having
I did not mute myself at all.
There we go. Thank you.
Can you hear me? I didn't mute myself.
Kanina, if I make a suggestion, please close your webcam. It might be your bandwidth
Now?
on your.
Hello?
That's better. Thank you.
According to this, it says unmuted. Okay, because on my side it says I'm unmuted. I think for me, in two roles, when I was an engineer at ABB, I think I think for me, I was an engineer. I was 20 years excited, full of passion, full of energy, but not knowing what it meant. And I think at that moment, because I was given an opportunity to be the first female engineer automation at ABB, one of the questions that I was continuously asked by people was, do you think we'll hire more women after you? Well, you think we'll hire more women after you? It became a burden, but a couple of years later, I realized that it wasn't a burden. For me, it was an opportunity to make sure that I do everything better and well, so that I can open the door for other women to get the opportunity and follow through. And I think once I realized that, it became a legacy for me that I wanted to create. And I think I'm talking a lot about legacy, so you can understand that I really believe in that. And that didn't start today. It started then, when everybody said to me, remember, you are the first woman that we took a chance with. Depending on how you deliver and how you do your job, we might not give other women an opportunity. And it was either I chose to see it as a burden or as an opportunity to make sure that I do better in creating a legacy, which I believe I did. So that was one. I think also when I was working at Schneider and we were going to open the Sub-Sahara business, it became an opportunity for me to move from leadership with young people. Because remember, once you're in leadership, regardless that you've got that qualification of engineering, that you've been an engineer, you're not technical every day. You lose your technical ability. Maybe other people are keeping it, but for me, I struggled with it. It gave me an opportunity to open many other doors for young people and also learn from them and helping me to stay younger. I think when you open the opportunity for other people, you learn and you grow. So for me, those are the two things that I hope, hopefully I'm answering your question, but that's the only way that I can think of answering your question. Because those two highlights have stayed with me for the past 26 years.
Okay, thanks for that, Kanina. We have another one by Mkwape. In your view, is the industry on track to make the future inclusive?
No, it's not. I said it earlier on, it's been 26 years. Some people might say 15 years. We still talk about it. We're still creating rooms and teams to talk about DE&I. Like I said, we move from inclusivity to diversity and inclusion to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We keep on adding instead of making it happen. I think it will only happen if we stop talking about it and we implement. So where I am, no. My answer to your question is no.
Okay, thank you. We do have another by Shepherd and Kosi. How do we make sure that the focus to get more women in engineering discipline doesn't start at tertiary level? So how do we make sure that the focus gets more women in?
You know, I want to answer it this way because I truly believe that this has worked. Some of us, when we were in high school, I'm talking about 1991, 92, 93, there were a few companies, the Siemens, ABB, that used to come to high schools to talk to us, to help us understand what is STEM, what is engineering. So by the time you got to matric, you already understood what engineering was about. They created the love and the passion for you to be able to study engineering at university. Because if they didn't do that, I wouldn't have known anything about automation. But because there were those opportunities while I was still in high school, by the time I reached matric in 1993, it was clear in my head, in my mind, where I wanted to go to, because we had Siemens, which came to our schools, we had Unilever, which came to our schools, but it was all about talking about technical subjects, talking about engineering, trying to get young people excited, not only women, young people excited, and get to know about the bursaries that are also out there. Because remember, you've got other people that have got the skill and the love and the passion to want to study engineering, but because of funds, they end up doing other things. So what the Unilevers and the ABBs and the Siemens did for the young me, who was doing standard 8 or grade 10 in today's language, was to understand that as long as I know what I want to do, the passion, they've educated me, they showed me the different engineering fields that I could actually be able to follow, and an opportunity also to understand what I was passionate about, because you got an opportunity to go during school holidays to go work with them and be able to have a mentor who will mentor you, and also to be able to say, okay, these are the subjects I needed to follow at school, and what grades I needed to achieve for them to be able to help me. So some of us studied through bursaries, not because we had money, we didn't, because we had the opportunity, we had 3 years to learn and to understand what we needed to do, what we wanted to achieve, and what grades were needed for you to be able to be accepted and to get somebody else to take care of you financially. So I don't see that happening today. We're not doing it as leaders, even if we got to where we are because of that, we have forgotten about it. I think if industry can go back to that, where we engage with kids at school from as early as grade 7 or grade 8, and mentor them and coach them so that they understand what are we talking about when we're talking about technology? What is STEM? What does it mean? How do you get there? Because remember, every kid is looking to towards finding a mentor or a hero. So if you don't have a mentor, you might not have a hero, you might not believe in engineering. I believe that's where we need to go back to, engaging with high schools.
Just one more by Mkwape. What do you think are the main contributing factors that prevent us from realizing the gender parity in STEM?
Please repeat that again. It was breaking on my side.
Okay, sorry about that. What do you think are the main contributing factors that prevent us from realizing the gender parity in STEM?
Because we're waiting for somebody else to come and make a difference. If we stop waiting and start doing it as you, if I start doing it today, do my part, and you do your part, we'll be able to realize it. But we're still waiting for somebody else to come and do it. And guess what? No one is coming to do it but us.
That's true. Thanks so much, Kanina. I think that's all the questions for this afternoon. If there are any further questions by the audience, you are more than welcome to forward your questions through, and Kanina will attend to it. And it will be posted on the SAIEE webpage. Thank you, and I'll now hand you over to Mokwape.
Mokwape, if I may. Excuse me. We have 3 more questions if we have time, if you allow me. I've got a question here from Kanina's first heroine, Saigura. She's saying, thank you for an interesting presentation and acknowledgement. My question is, how do we address the salary inequality and gender gap? How do we link to government to influence the policy and KPIs of CEOs?
So one of the things, and unfortunately when it comes to this answer side, with this question, the best way that I can answer is what I am doing, what I think I can see that is working for me within the current company, is for every recruitment that we are making, I am not looking at what the policy is saying. If the policy for Rockwell says we need to give a person 20%, but if I look that this is a woman coming in, but if we give her 20%, it's okay in terms of the policies, but it means she's forever going to be behind her male colleagues. I change that. If it means I have to go back overseas to find more budget, that's what I do. It starts for me, it starts when we do recruitments and when we do promotions. When there's a gap, let's fix it at that moment, because it becomes difficult to do it later. Unfortunately, when we say linking back to the government, I think government has done enough to try and encourage. We've got policies, we've got everything that we need out there. It's, for me, I believe in action, and that's why I'm saying I'm using that example to say that's what I am doing, and I can see it is working. For how long, I don't know, but for now, it is working.
Thank you, Kanina. We only have 2 comments, one from Janet Gillespie, who says, thank you, Kanina, for an interesting talk. No questions, but I have written down a list of links. One thing that is encouraging to see is how many more women there are in the engineering field than 30 years ago. But as you mentioned, we are still raising the same topics. And our last comment from Varosha Ganas says, thanks for sharing the clarity information, and for all attendees, I have posted the link to the video that Kanina was battling to play. It's in the chat box. Please click on it and view it. She says, very interesting. I presume they were part of the first plastic road that opened in Jeffreys Bay in 2019. Out of the box thinking. Thank you.
Yes, they were.
Thank you. Over to you, Mokwa. Sorry, Mokwape, you're muted.
Thank you very much to Crystal and to Mings for those questions, and to our audience as well for asking the questions. We have come to the end of our webinar today, and I will now hand you over to Thandi Sishi, who will do some concluding remarks. From my side, thank you very much for your participation, and good afternoon from me. Goodbye. Thandi.
Thank you very much, Mokwape. Firstly, I would like to, on behalf of the KZN committee, thank SAIEE committee, thank Kanina for for availing herself today, and for such a very enlightening presentation, very aspiring. It's such a breath of fresh air to actually hear about the heroines, and also what the women are actually doing in the engineering fraternity. So we're taking a lot from this. And thank you so much for the time and for everything, for the information that you put together in this presentation. And also I would like to also thank our SAIEE KZN committee, especially for their support, and especially our chairperson for actually creating this platform for us women engineers to actually showcase ourselves today. And it has been a very learning, it's very been an informative session for all of us. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the attendees, all our esteemed attendees, the audiences, and your contribution, your participation throughout this session. It's I mean, even the questions and everything we really appreciate, and I hope that you have been inspired as much as I've also been inspired. I think we have come to the end of our session, and thank you very much all.